Some houses may appear perfectly normal from the outside, but behind those walls, they may hide secrets more terrifying than we could ever imagine. This is the story of one such house, where dark forces began to stir and a family was thrust into a nightmare they couldn't escape. Some houses from the outside seem perfectly ordinary, but every so often, there's a house that hides something so sinister within its walls that it defies imagination. This is the terrifying tale of the Donovan family, one of the most chilling cases that Ed and Lorraine Warren, the world's most renowned paranormal investigators, ever encountered. They regarded it as one of their most dangerous investigations, the Donovan family haunting. Ted and Ellen Donovan had recently moved into a new home with their children. It was a modest house in a good neighborhood, looking like any typical family home. The first few months were calm, with nothing out of the ordinary. But their 19-year-old daughter, Patty Donovan, had trouble adjusting to the new area. She didn't have many friends, and her parents were strict with her and her younger brother. To escape her loneliness, Patty brought an Ouija board into the house, a tool known for contacting spirits from beyond. Curious, Patty asked the board, "Is anyone here who can hear me?" To her shock, the planchette moved rapidly to yes. Intrigued, Patty began asking the spirit more questions. She learned that the entity was the spirit of a 19-year-old boy. When Patty asked if he would be her friend, the planchette moved again, this time spelling out B-O-Y-F-R-I-E-N-D. The spirit began complimenting Patty, telling her that she was more beautiful than other girls. As the days passed, Patty grew more and more attached to the spirit, genuinely believing it was her boyfriend. Then one night, she asked the spirit to appear before her. The lights in her room flickered as the planchette stopped moving. But it was only the beginning. From that night on, the Donovan family's life would never be the same. But before I continue, I'd like to tell you about the Conjuring: The Last Rites, based on Ed and Lorraine Warren's final case. It's available now on Geo Hotstar. In this chilling case, similar to the Donovan haunting, the Smalls family's life changed forever after encountering a cursed mirror. But what made this case so terrifying that the Warrens could never solve it? Watch it now on Geo Hotstar, streaming in English, Hindi, or your preferred language. Things began to get even stranger at the Donovan house. Unexplainable sounds started echoing through the walls. At night, when everything was silent, the family would hear knocking and tapping noises, but it wasn't from pipes or neighbors. It felt like someone was whispering directly to them from within the walls. One evening, while the family sat at dinner, a photo on the wall suddenly fell to the ground and shattered. The next morning, Ellen Donovan awoke to find deep, claw-like scratches covering nearly every wall in the house, as if something had been desperately trying to break free. The strangest thing of all, however, was the foul odor that began to fill the house. A disgusting stench of rotting meat and sulfur that would appear out of nowhere, linger for a while, and then vanish. No matter how hard they tried to get rid of the smell, it wouldn't go away. They tried opening windows, using air fresheners, even lighting candles, but the stench remained. One day, Ted Donovan made a horrifying discovery while in the bathroom. Instead of water, thick, dark red liquid poured from the faucet. Horrified, he called a plumber to check the pipes. The plumber initially thought it was just the old rust-colored water from the pipes, and he fixed it temporarily. But this strange occurrence continued to happen. Every faucet in the house began to leak thick, dark red liquid. The unsettling noises and the foul stench now seemed to be evolving into something even more terrifying. On the night of March 31st, 1974, the entire Donovan family sat in the living room, watching TV. Suddenly, the lights began flickering, and the TV turned off by itself. Then the unimaginable happened. A 6-foot, 100-kilogram dresser lifted off the ground and began spinning in midair. Chairs and pictures started floating. A dark, menacing presence seemed to encircle the house, and an eerie growling sound echoed throughout. Terrified, Ted Donovan took his family and fled to a hotel. But even there, the lights began flickering, and the horrifying screams and growls continued to haunt them. The hotel manager, unable to understand what was happening, asked them to leave. When they returned home, the situation was even worse. The house was completely destroyed. Cleaning fluids, alcohol, and perfume were spilled across the carpets and beds. The walls were covered in foul, obscene graffiti. Neighbors reported hearing the same growling and screaming noises from inside the house, but couldn't figure out what was happening. Desperate for help, Ted called Ed and Lorraine Warren, the world's most famous paranormal investigators. The Warrens had solved many dangerous hauntings, and Ted hoped they could help him too. When Ed and Lorraine arrived at the Donovan home, Ed immediately remarked that the atmosphere was suffocating. Upon knocking on the wall twice, Ed heard a response from within the walls, 2 knocks in return. The smell was still there, and the red liquid continued to flow from the faucets. During the investigation, Lorraine saw a large, dark figure floating in the air near Patty's room. Its eyes were glowing red, and Lorraine felt an overwhelming sense of weakness, as though the entity was draining her energy. Just as she began to feel faint, Ed intervened and the shadow disappeared. The children revealed that they had often seen the dark figure standing by their beds. Mrs. Donovan also described sensing the shadow in the kitchen on several occasions. The Warrens began their prayers and rituals, but every time they tried, loud knocks and banging sounds erupted from the walls, their candles and lamps extinguished on their own. The entity clearly did not want them there. The attacks intensified. One night, as Mrs. Donovan slept, she suddenly felt an invisible hand strangling her. When she switched on the light, the pressure disappeared, but the terror was far from over. The presence in the house seemed to grow more hostile, and it was clear that the Donovan family was trapped in a nightmare with no way out. Would the Warrens be able to stop the malevolent force haunting their home, or would they become the next victims of its wrath? The scratches on Mrs. Donovan's chest were undeniable. Ed and Lorraine Warren knew this wasn't just a haunting, it was an infestation. An infestation meant that the family wasn't being tormented by a wandering spirit, but rather by a demonic force, a malevolent entity that intended to cause harm to the entire family. Lorraine explained that this spirit wasn't attached to the house, it had followed them, even to the hotel. She also revealed that the entity hadn't come on its own. Someone in the house had invited it in. That's when Patty confessed about the Ouija board. The Warrens realized that the entity wasn't a teenage boy's spirit, but something far darker, something that had manipulated Patty into believing it was harmless. The only way to stop it was through an exorcism. Ed Warren requested permission from the church to perform the exorcism, and when the priest began the ritual, the Donovan family's home was transformed into a battlefield. The temperature inside the house dropped to an unbearable cold. The walls began to shake. Strange noises filled the air, and several windows suddenly shattered. That's when they saw it again, the dark figure. It appeared before them, more terrifying than ever. Then Patty was lifted off the ground. The shadow entered her body, and her eyes turned blood red. As the exorcism continued, Patty screamed in agony, her body writhing in pain. Suddenly she was thrown across the room, slamming into the wall 5 feet away, and falling unconscious. The house fell silent. The faucets finally stopped spewing red liquid, and the water ran clear. When Patty's eyes opened, she was fully recovered. The exorcism had been successful. Though the Donovan family no longer lives there, the house still stands, inhabited by new residents. For those who lived through the terror, however, the nightmare has never truly ended. So remember, some doors are better left closed. Think twice before bringing old items into your home. Just as the Donovan family learned with the Ouija board and the Smalls family with their cursed mirror. What made the mirror in the Smalls case so dangerous that the Warrens could never solve it? Find out by watching The Conjuring, The Last Rites, now streaming on Geo Hotstar. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, The Dark Whisper.